Hey everyone, how you doing? Today's video is very interesting. I had a video before where I made a JavaScript rendering framework from scratch, and this was using some Object.defineProperty stuff that's deeply nested into JavaScript and not really something that people are familiar with. But today, I'm going to rewrite that whole thing with Proxy, and that's going to be where it gets really cool. So if you've seen the last video, great. You have a lot of context to work with. If you haven't seen the last video, you can watch it, but you really don't have to, because I'm going to go through and rewrite all that stuff in proxies. And you can look at the existing code. It's right there, and you can see how it's going to be different. And I do review that in the video. Let's look at what other people did. Yeah, stop. Oh my God, I just want to read this. Please. Dude, who does this online? Seriously. Fine. Okay, let's see what his is. Best practice. Can I vote for my own? Oh yeah, this is ours, guys. This is ours. Check it out. Clever. It's not clever. No, it's best practices. Yes. Ours is the best. Hey, look, somebody did something similar. Okay. Let's go through these. I'm very curious. Time is it? Yeah, I can do 15 minutes. All right. They use the get function. Yes. Proxy. I forgot about proxies. Is that what I was talking about? Remember I was talking about, okay, nobody's been here since probably the beginning of the stream, but I was telling you at the beginning that on a dot, you can execute custom functionality. Remember I said you split on a dot and you'd be able to like do whatever you want? That's the thing I wanted. It was proxy. It wasn't get. It was proxy, maybe with a get function. No way. Okay, tomorrow I'm doing this correctly, or the next day I stream at least. Come on, give me the example. Handler. It's a function that gets executed as a get. Oh my God. This is exactly what I wanted. Yes. Can you do? Oh my God. Am I gonna have to do this tonight? There's no way. There's no way. I'm not gonna do it tonight. It's late. You give it a function. I don't know why you give it a function. Why do you give it a function? What is target? It's an object. Why did he give it a function? What is func? Func is S to S. Hey, guess what? Okay, S to S. Right here, format HTML string. Okay. Just get that out of the way. Because I'm assuming his format provider is calling format provider. Yes. Okay. I don't know what the heck F is. I'm gonna put clever. This is clever, but it's also functional. It's not a best practice and is not clever. There's nothing clever about this. It's the way you should do it, is with proxy. I was dumb and didn't do it with proxy. Compare with my solution. It's going to look ridiculous. It's not going to match at all. Mine was, let's look at this dude down here. He had a bunch of stuff. Look at this. He had a bunch of stuff. He made format a function, which is, it's not. Okay, a format is not a function. It's supposed to be an object with properties. So he did not answer the question correctly based on that. But let's see what, okay. Format is not a function. It's the value of a function. I was wrong. So he gives it tags. He gives it the object. Hey, check it out. He gives it the object. He gives it the tags. Technically, that's what this is. Okay. Left and right. What is all this stuff? Slice reverse. What are you doing? Oh, I see what he's doing. He's doubling up on the logic. So instead of calling a function that calls function, like I'm doing, is a very functional way. This is very functional. What he's doing is he's like getting a list of them, which is one of the ideas I had. You'd get a list of them and then you'd push them in. He's unshifting these this unshift just pops things in the back, push things in the front. They both mutate the object though. I don't want to mutate the object. I know we're doing this, but I think you have to do it here. There's no way around it for this, but in no other place am I mutating an object. So I win at that part. Oh, you didn't get any votes? I thought this qualifies clever. Be creative or make use of the obscure language features. So that's why they're saying this is clever as the proxy, but honestly, that's what you would use this for. Proxy is the right way to do this. There's no other way to do it there's no good way to do it, as you can tell. I created a proxy, but it's not really a proxy. I wonder what were you supposed to do? Clever. Yeah, I agree. He's doing weird, obscure crap. He or she. Let's figure this out. Fun dot reverse. It's not a function because it's not an array. So these are on an array. This is an array. Dot reverse. And instead of calling it, he's doing this. What? Since when? Why do you do this? Why would you? Okay. What? When did they make everything a template string? Like formatter, custom tag, a tagged literal string. No way this is like I never heard of this thing. Why does it do nothing here? Like, why did he do this there? And it does absolutely nothing to it. What if I pass strings into it? What if I do this in reverse? No? Is he just showing off? Like, what? The join thing was cool though. I did not know that because you can join. It looks like it just puts commas. Did I not do the join? What? The default join is a comma. So if you call join as a template string, okay. So I'd probably never do this in my code unless it's a common practice. Unless like I like do it all over the place and it would make sense to people because this makes sense to everybody. Everybody knows how this works. This is like the weirdest thing because I know what this is. This is a tagged like literal string or whatever, string literal template string. But I would never think, I didn't know what this would execute when it happened. I didn't know you're essentially calling the function with quote by doing this. And now I wonder if I can do this everywhere. Okay, this is mine, right? Okay, what else is he doing? He's got one get defined here. He has a proxy defined here. Dude, I can't read this code. And what is this? You're doing you're mapping the ends and you're mapping the beginnings. Dude, you don't need to do this twice. He's like joining two. Look, there's a plus sign. See that plus sign? I can do better than that. Okay. It was definitely clever, but only because of the way he was using the quote or the template strings. Not in any other. Mine is definitely best practice. It's not best practice. It's not best practice because of like this. Why don't I just use a proxy? Why? Okay, let's do this. Format.js getter, format getter. And then this new one is going to be called format proxy. And I can do this probably real quick. Let's just do it in the index for now and we'll copy it out later. So instead of all this junk I've been doing, we just need to create a proxy and then we split on it. And when we split, we can still use this function. I'm pretty sure doesn't have to go away. I know it looks ridiculous right now because of all the weird template string things, but this should not have to go away. And I honestly think that it can read easier too. Okay, let's do this for reals. So we do have this and you do have to call this again. But now all this stuff is like a new proxy. And you have one getter on there. You still need to define each one as a getter. You would still need to define each one. And each one would have a string for, maybe what I did was the right way to do it. Yeah, best practice. Here we go. I wonder how many times it lets you go on your own. So I'm wondering if proxy is even the better approach because now I'm parsing strings, whereas I'm not parsing strings with the getters. I'm literally like calling the code straight up and being like, okay, here's something you're getting returned back. And here's a new object, which is the string formatter with those properties. This is very explicit. It's telling you exactly what it's doing. We need to do this reduce no matter what, with a proxy or without it. Unless I'm not understanding proxy. Unless proxy can take any value, you don't have to define what they are. So this like takes a validator function and it takes an object. And could it be like anytime you call anything on it, it runs through the validator? I'm really interested to find out more. Okay, so this is can we clear this, please? Oh, come on. Okay, proxy. It does exist. New proxy takes an object and a validator function, which is called console.log. Let's make it a value. T.a. No, A, what are you doing, Chrome? Come on. Undefined, not a function. A is undefined. Do we have to define them in the object here? Let's see. If we do, then we're almost back to saying my example is fine. I do want to use a proxy though, because that was my original idea, was to use a proxy. I just didn't know the name of it. Nor did anybody watching. Oh. So that still doesn't call the validator. But I think if I do a dot something here, the validator should get called, which is our console log statement. All right, I'm going to keep reading this and figure out how to do it for reals. I'm just trying to be really quick. And it's not working in my favor. Okay, the handler is okay, the handler is an object that has a get, and the get has a function, and guess you have to define it like this? You probably don't need to. We don't have a this in here. It gives you an object and a property. Okay, I wonder if, let's try this again. Let's copy this much. No, he's setting A to something. He is setting the value here. I'm saying he, but this example has been personified into a male. Use a proxy. Okay, fine. That has no property. It's a function. No, it's a native function. 37. I didn't make it 37. A doesn't exist. So B is also 37? Whoa. Okay. No, proxy is the right thing. Proxy is the right thing. New proxy. Yes. And it's an object. Yeah. It doesn't need to be a function. And it has can I call it? Can I call this as a value? No, because it has to return. It has to return a function. Do we still need this logic? Or do we return another proxy? because you need to be able to call it. How do you call it? Are we gonna have the same problem we did before? I knew this was gonna take a while. I might save it for tomorrow. New people coming in, they're like, why are you doing this? What are you doing? What's the question? Why are we using proxy? What is proxy? How does this work? If you sat through me trying to do this, it would make a lot of sense. But if you haven't, it might not make as much sense. What we're doing, why we're doing it? Okay, that is a lot of information. That is a set. Is that when you call it? Invalidate the pass. Wait, what? No, can I fake this? Can I make the set like return HTML? The set return indicates success. No. They're not calling the setter though. They're just doing equals. Okay, so when you do equals, it calls the set. No, I want it to be a function. I want my getter to return a function. Okay. And the proxy itself. I think I can return format. I really do. I really think I can do this. Okay, get, and it's object props, right? Like this. I want to do with the arrow function. Can I just change it up? Is it going to error? No. Yes. What? Do I need like something in here? And then it will stop complaining? Then it'll complain this doesn't exist. Yeah, okay, fine. I want to return this as this. Okay. This object's probably our initial properties. And then when you do a get on something that doesn't exist in here, then it gives us the object, which is our proxy. Okay. So we can return the proxy and we can return the prop. But we don't want to return the prop. We want to split on this. We want to figure out what this prop. I want to log these because I want to see what cool stuff we can get out of this. But I guess I'll return undefined. I think if I return undefined, it's going to cause an issue, but we'll find out. And we can do this in the console to check out what it does. So basically, I don't want this initial properties piece. I just want an object here. Everything else is going to work as is. Okay, cool. So we go in the browser, we clear, we do this, get equal to t.a.b.c.d. Whoa, it's logging every time. Why does this get called every time? I'm not done yet. Can read property be of undefined? No, not every prop. I want to do something where I get a string back of like all this junk. There's a way to do this. Like I did it without a proxy. So object prop. So if the object is, the prop is in the object, yeah, I've returned that. Otherwise return 37. Okay, hang on, we're getting somewhere. So I want to return if, I don't want to call it widget. Come on, I would never call it that. Proxy, that's what it is. And the prop is the prop name. It sounds like a prop name. Okay, like that. If that, or, because technically this could be fine. We're going to do it this way. Or we just log. So if it exists, it calls it. Otherwise, or it returns it. So you have access to it. Okay, so that's what will come out of there. Otherwise, we're going to log our proxy and our property name, like we've been doing. And when we're logging them, we're getting the property name, which is what we expect, was A every time. It's A every time. And then a proxy. Can we like log these here? Did I delete something I shouldn't have? I did, but, and then proxy name. I'm just trying to think this through. Proxy itself is an object, which is like this with the getter. Okay. So it is our proxy object. I don't need to keep logging it. I know what it's doing. I do want to log the property name that it keeps thinking we have. This would be undefined. Or we return the proxy. Okay. Or the proxy. No, not with a capital P. In this case, it's all true. Okay, so t.a dot log b dot t dot. Why is the property not a.b dot whatever? How do I capture all of this? There is a way to do it. There is a way to say that your input into this get function is like everything. It's the property name is like a whole big string of stuff. I don't want to cheat and look at their solutions. Man, I don't have time for this. This is cheat. Fine. It's supposed to be challenging. So they're passing in a tag, which is interesting. It's the HTML tag. I thought it was like a tag string function or whatever. This guy looks like he's doing it somewhat functionally. I don't like to use that F, but F is a function, I guess. This is also func is the function. So how confusing is that? So he's created a function that returns a proxy every time, which is what I was doing. But I wonder if there's a way you can do it where you don't do that. So I don't want to have to do this. I don't want this at all. I want to be able to just get the stuff and do the logic. I thought some people are looping. This guy's looping. Formatter, okay, you created a class. I didn't expect this to be a class. On call, get the args,
A.slice, Wait, this dot A. What the heck is A? Why A? What does A mean? A is an array? Can you just write like random array that I don't even know what it does? New proxy. Okay, so in the constructor, it returns a proxy. I didn't know you could return from the constructor. Does that give you the this? Is that the this of the function now? Is whatever's in here? Because he's got a this up here. Yeah, he's proxying this. Oh my God, you can do that? I had no clue. I've never done JavaScript before. I don't think I've ever done this like this. How would I do this? Usually my classes would be self-contained. I wouldn't do something weird like this. It's also extending function. Okay, that's funny. So now this class is actually a function. It has all the properties of a function, so you can call it. That's why it has a call here. He's overriding the call. Couldn't I just add a function called call to any class? Do I have to extend this? Okay, this is cheating. That is cheating. You should be doing this dynamically. You don't have to write all this out. You should know better. Turn new formatter. Okay, so he's calling this class again, newing it up. Yeah, this is what do you call it? Factory pattern. And then I'm hoping somebody like tells me I'm wrong if like anything's wrong at this point. This a concat div. Okay, A. We're back to A. A.slice. What are you slicing? Target.call. What's target? Apply. What are you doing? How do you do? You can do this stuff? What magic is this? I thought you just do the get. What's this apply here? Are you just putting random properties on it? Because I created an object here with properties. This should have, no, it shouldn't. Yeah, extends function. This should have properties because you called super. Which you have to do anyway, I think. Target.call, man, this is really confusing. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that I've been trying to put in every video. This is why I'm doing these videos. I can't read this code. I have no clue what it's doing. If I had to edit this, it would be hard as I would have no clue. Like I'd have to debug, I'd have to go through it. I have to like figure out what this is. And okay, so I have A and I'm mapping. Okay, I can understand there's an HTML piece here. I can understand we're creating an array and we're creating a string now off of that array. And there's a bunch of other stuff and we got like the exit. So at some point in here, I think it's this. Ours must be like, so, but I had to read it. I got it really hard. My code, you probably got to read too, but I'm curious if I look at my code, if it makes sense compared to their examples. One I can say is it's definitely better than this. You can't read this. Nobody can do this code. This is like a giant regex that nobody gives a crap about. This, I don't want to say it sucks. It fulfilled the need. It does do the problem. I don't know how performant it is. I don't know how good. Somebody hit the minify button on their code, and that's what this is. If you write code like this, I want to know why. I want to know what the reason for you to write code like this, if this is acceptable for you. Because this is not acceptable for me. This would be something where, first thing, it would never pass code review. And second thing, it'd be one of those functions that now I would have to maintain for the rest of my time at that employer. And that time would probably be very short because if I wrote code like this, I would be gone immediately. And somebody would rewrite this and make it work. Especially if I wrote unit tests. It would make it way easier to overwrite it. Or that code would just sit there forever and nobody would ever touch it. And if something goes wrong, then we're always going to blame that one dude that wrote this code. So you cannot do this. You absolutely cannot write code like this in production. And even for a website like this, I don't know why, what is the challenge to write it online? That's fine. People have their own reasons for doing things. Like I put clever, right? So his thing got ranked up. So look at mine. Okay, HTML tag names. Yes, very clear what these are. Initial properties. Okay, this sounds like these are the initial properties of something, some object, and it's a function that, okay, so this is weird, right? That this is it's not a function. It says it's a function, but it's an object with a value prop. That's very strange. I would never know why this is done this way. But if we look at it would be very confusing to see this. But if we saw this function, I would say, okay, format HTML string. That sounds like a function that does something to the output of this. And then there's an HTML tag name. Yes. Okay. That makes sense. And then values. So there are an array of values that are being passed in. They can be dotted. So even if it's a string, if values is a string, it'll still work. This will still work as you expect. It's not an array of values. It's an array of arguments. Yeah. So values could be, okay. So that makes sense to me. This function is not crazy. This is the crazy part. And I'll find out later why that is if I look at this code. Create formatter properties. Okay, so I would look at this. I would say, okay, there's some format HTML string. That looks familiar. This looks crazy. I don't know what it's doing, but let's see. It's a reduce. So it's reducing on our tag names. Okay, I remember what those are because I saw them clearly defined here. Getter functions. So we're doing something with getter. Here's our getter function. Okay, and then HTML tag name. That's our getter function name. Okay, so there's some logic in here for the getter functions. That's everything is defined in what I'm doing. I don't have to comment or anything here yet. And maybe somebody else looking at this video is going to disagree. That's fine. I'd like to know why. So let's see what else we got. We got string formatter equals this dot create string formatter. Yes. So that makes sense to me. But where did this function come from? I don't see it here. And then I would look around, right? And I'd find, okay, it must be coming from somewhere. And oh, initial properties, this matches what was in here. Okay, so something has to do with this value because we're not calling dot value. So that would confuse me for a while. I would not know why that's there until I look up object.create and find out how that even works. So that is confusing. I can definitely improve that part and maybe even inlining it, but I don't want to inline it. If we're going to call this reduce a lot, I'd rather define it once. Create string for, okay, so I would have a string formatter, that makes sense. And then we're doing something where we're creating properties. Okay, that makes sense. We do that down here. We don't know that yet, though. If I was reading this code for the first time, I wouldn't know. I'd say, okay, did it make sense? Create formatter properties, and created properties. This says create formatter properties. It must be calling itself, and then we're giving it the string formatter. Okay, that makes sense. So string formatter is some kind of thing like this, and it must have something to do with this because we're passing it in. And then, okay, we're going to define properties. We're going to do this. It looks like it mutates string formatter, and then we return string formatter. So string formatter is got like some properties on it that you can call, and it's also, it looks like it's a function. And so I would say, okay, I don't understand this get thing, but somehow that you can call this as a function. So here's the thing. That's what I would do if I was going through this the first time. That's how I would think about it. And that's why I think what I did was good. If people disagree or agree, I would love to know. You can even put it in the chat if you're still watching. Yeah, in the early days of a stream, maybe not going to get as many people watching. Let's see what else we got here. Anytime you put F, I'm done. I would not want to deal with this code ever. This does not make, now I know it means function, but at the time I've seen the word F, I think like calculus, f of x, that kind of stuff, not good for people understanding. Like, what does function do? Format is equal to f. So you fail? Like, is that what that is? You format is failed. I don't understand. I do like that he's defined this kind of stuff that you're putting in here. I don't know what object is. Technically, it doesn't make any sense. And the worst part about this, so this is something I don't like. I've heard this from, I don't want to name names, but somebody on Twitter who's a big name in Kansas City noted that he likes being able to define this because it gets automatically hoisted and you don't have to worry about ordering. I don't like it because if I see this code, I expect F to be defined somewhere above this. I expect it to exist. And for F to exist down here would be very confusing, especially if I'm skimming code or trying to read it for the first time. I would never expect that F is like down here somewhere hiding. And if it is, then that's like really confusing because I got to now realize that F is a function and it is going to get automatically hoisted. It is not a variable that was created off a function or something else like that. Okay, so left and right, slice, reverse. This I like this somewhat. It's redundant, but it does make sense. So look how he's doing slice here. You're saying, why did this guy do a slice? Why did he slice on the text? Because he doesn't want to mutate them. So he's putting a push and an unshift. So the reason he does a slice here is because that creates a new object of tags, which is a duplicate of tags. So this is actually good right here. I like this. And reverse, the other reason he's doing slice and then reverse is reverse mutates. So reverse will mutate your array. So you don't want to do a reverse without a slice in front of it. I wish there was an ESLint rule for that. Maybe there is, but I would create it. I would definitely myself create a rule to automatically put a slice, to force a slice before a reverse every time. And that would fix that. Now, for performance reasons, you might not want it, but that's fine. You do ESLint disable. Okay, so const tag of this. Why? You're taking tags as an array. So because he never passes it in, he doesn't create so he creates a default array here, but then doesn't care about it. It doesn't matter anymore. Well, what about this? Why are you slicing? What's all this logic? Okay, so clearly there's a problem here. Continue. So here's another thing. If statement, there are no brackets around it. I would assume that maybe these are in the if statement or there's something else. This is very confusing to me when I see this code like this. It works fine in CoffeeScript, not in JavaScript. I would expect to see the brackets, especially because I might hit the enter key right here. Before this continue, I might hit the enter key when I'm doing this code and not think about it and not put the brackets in and then put other code in there. And then what'll happen is it'll continue every time because the logic I'll usually put is before continue. So I'll put logic before continue that does something, maybe another check or something like that. And then this continue won't run. And this even got Apple at some point. So Apple got caught like with HTTPS, it wasn't doing certificates or something in their iOS code. And the reason for that was because they had an if statement like this and there were two things under it, but they were tabbed over. So it looked like they were all under that if, but they weren't. So always putting those brackets is better. Also, the fact that this continues like way over here on the side of the screen means it's harder to see it. So if I'm looking at this if here, I'm not going to see this continue. It's going to be much harder for me to see. What else? Let's see. Man, I'm fine critiquing other people's code. I feel like maybe mine's not as good as I think. I'd love to get my code critiqued as well from somebody and to explain what isn't understood. I don't want critiquing necessarily in the formatting of it. I'm doing this for a reason, but I would like critiquing on if the code read well, or if the variable names make sense, or if the fact that I put the value here makes sense. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should add it somewhere else, or make it clear in initial properties. This is like initial create object properties or something like that, so that it's obvious what's going on. I would like to know that information. That's very important to me. Let's see. Yeah, there's a function. Yeah, call func. What is this function doing though? So in mine, it was called create string formatter. This just is called func. This doesn't have a name. I can tell what it's doing, but it doesn't have a name. And so ours, okay, this is that values thing that I did. And then this is really confusing because he's getting these, it's not confusing in a bad way. It's just confusing in the way that, like, he's got these pops and shifts and pushes and unshifts and all that stuff. That makes your code more confusing. And you are mutating these objects where you don't have to. In fact, this for loop, you don't need it. You could do it a different way. But he's also doing the define properties. He's doing all this. And then you get F again. So now it's calling this again, but it's just F. And half the time, I'll put it like this. Looking at other people's code, I also don't notice this F. Like I might look at it and I'm like, okay, func, tags, whatever. I might not realize that F is calling that when I'm skimming through the code real quick to figure out what it does. Like I have to really read through this to figure it out. I'm getting the general gist of it. So it's not that bad, but there are some weird oddities like that. Like he's pushing all these tags in one by one. And so basically what this is doing is it's creating a stack. So he's creating a stack with this, and then he's removing stuff off the stack when he's done. So he creates a stack of each one and keeps mapping stuff in and then removing it from the stack. Something like that. That's what it looks like to me from first look. And it's really confusing because this one called push and this one calls unshift and this one calls pop and this one calls shift. That is still confusing, even though it shouldn't be because one's left, one's right. It's still confusing because I'm seeing two different function names here. So we're doing the different functionality, but I'm not exactly sure why. It's not such a big deal. I can figure it out by looking at it, but it's still confusing. So it's interesting that the longer ones that have more easier to read text are at the bottom here. Yeah, all of these, okay, well, some of these are not. But if you look at the top, what's up here, right? You got everything's like one line. All these are one line. And somebody called this a best practice. Okay, well, this has multiple things. But this is not a best practice. You didn't use tags. You like manually did this. And I do like it being explicit. But the question did not ask for explicitity. It did not ask for you to be explicit about these. It asked you to define these, it looks like, with the array that they gave you. So even though I didn't keep the tags array, I did keep it in this format. I just didn't keep it the other way. I really want to do this proxy thing. I really want to figure this out, but I'm probably going to, you know what? I'm just going to do it for tomorrow. So everybody who watched this, was like really excited for me to solve it. The thing I need to solve tomorrow is to make sure that this property name is like infinite. So basically anything after the first property, any dot or anything like that gets captured by this proxy. And that is the hard part. And that's what we're going to have to do tomorrow. I want to just get rid of all this here and we'll worry about it later, but I do need the string formatter function, but nothing else. For this, I need this. Okay, I do need this eventually. I will need these things. Was I complaining? This is not used? That's fine. So tomorrow we'll have to figure this out. Yeah, I'm definitely tired. Going through all this, it's surprising how people solve it. Surprising like what solutions they come up with, or somebody hit the minify thing and is a masochist about how they're looking at stuff. I'm not seeing anything else. Nothing like stands out to me of these 10 solutions. Definitely mine stands out because it takes the most space. It's also the most vertical. It also has the longest variable names, and it like defines things a little bit differently. Here's that. I would like to hear from everybody else. I'd like to hear what you guys think, and about my other comments too, like about the other people's code, what you think might be a reason somebody does that or something like that. You don't have to give them a reason. If you actually know a legitimate reason, you can tell me. That would be very nice to hear. Thank you very much for watching my stream, and subscribe.
But really, you should subscribe. There's a lot of great content on this channel. It's only going to get better, and there's a lot more coming. If you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, comment. That would be really good because then I can get some feedback to work with. And I really do appreciate the feedback. If you really did get this far in the video, that is amazing. Thank you so much for that. Goodbye.